Welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with this week. Have you been wondering why Rocket League? Well, it might take some time. We'll get into that. And Feral has sorted Company of Heroes 2 multiplayer. They also released some DLC.
Aspyr publishes a first-person a first-person horror game on Steam. I already cocked that one up, but whatever. And obviously, it's still in early access. NVIDIA pulls an AMD and cocks up their drivers. All those changes they made were bound to have some repercussions.
An old Nintendo game gets a remake. No surprise to anyone, it's a hipster pixel platform puzzler. And does ruining friendships sound like fun? Get out of the way, Trine. It's time to move or die.
I'm Ben Stone here at LGC Actual, switching these bits all into the Linuxes, joined every week from Space Portugal.
Hello! How you doing?
And this week we're trading in Jewish guilt for werewolf guilt. It is Mike Tehan joining in, and together with Chat Realm Dynamic, we form that special little bit that is known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. Really, I was going to talk about almost nerfing our web zone, but it wasn't a big deal. It's just WordPress being mothering WordPress. If you've ever had to deal with that nightmare fuel, at least it's not Drupal. I finally put the latest 6.0 nightlies on my Nexus 10. If you're one of the 6 people that purchases a Nexus 10 like me, do it. It's brilliant. It's like a new system. Make sure you get these 6.0 G apps before you do it, or you're going to have a bad time. What's up, Tian?
Yeah, I don't know where this week went. I'm pretty sure I was at work, but my God, it vanished. And also 18 inches of snow.
Giggity.
Good times.
Good times. Well, for me, Dragon's Dogma is worse than crack cocaine. I made the mistake of installing that through Wine, and last week, pretty much I have had no free time whatsoever. It's just that game over and over again.
Well, P-Man, one thing that doesn't whine a whole lot is our horse, and it's up to some business this week, because it's our Steam
Linux
updates
of the week. Okay, let's get into this.
Nice job, guys.
Yeah, no, we're spot on. We're bringing our C game this evening, gentlemen. Rocket League soon launching for Linux and Steam OS has been posted so many times. I've seen it on the Reddits and everything like that. Speaking of the Reddits, this was actually posted by a Valve employee who just says, guys, I just want to clarify, we're working on it. Now, it's like, okay, at first, it's like, oh, right, and they're also working on Street Fighter V. I had that initial, like, wee, that's good. Then it kind of sucked in the back of my brain organ and was like, hey, Vin, what? And I was like, what? And it's like, Valve time. And I was like, oh, fuck, right, that thing. P-Man?
I don't know. Who did they outsource the port to? Iculus? Because it is a Unreal 3 game, right?
It is, but the way that reads is Valve's doing it in-house. So what do you think, Empty?
I'm thinking when it comes out, I will play it. If it ever comes out.
All things considered, it has a better chance of actually coming out than Carmageddon ever will.
Zing! All right. Big Hero 2.
All right. Company of Heroes 2, the Western Front Armies. Feral has ported yet another Company of Heroes game for us. Is the performance going to be as terrible as the original Company of Heroes 2? Question mark, question mark, question mark?
Well, I was going to think the biggest feature for this is they have finally sorted the online multiplayer so you can play with everyone else. Now, I think that is the big news we need to take from this.
Yeah.
But when it does come to performance, it ran horribly under Windows, and at the time we all had AMD, hex-core, octo-core CPUs, and we're like, oh, well, all right, maybe it's an Intel thing. Then J-Man, who's not with us this week, he's dead, but he'll be back next week. He bought a quad-core Skylake, and it ran worse on that. P-Man?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I was going to say that, yeah, it's a good thing that Feral finally figured out how to do cross-platform multiplayer, but considering the CHAIRQUISITION that we have coming up this week, that may not be the case. But before we get to that, we do have to talk about Aspyr. Yes, they have gone on to publish, not develop. They have published a Unity game on Steam, which happens to be a first-person horror game. It is still in early access, because of course it is. It's a horror game on Steam. Of course it's in early access. It's called Layers of Fear. The little blurb says it's a psychedelic horror where you take control over an insane painter in his quest to finish his magnum opus. Basically, what that means is that you will run around, quote-unquote, haunted mansion, looking for keys to open doors. That's basically it.
That's about what I take. Full disclosure, Aspyr has already sent us some keys for it. So
yes, they have.
We have taken a look at it. Would you say heavily inspired by Amnesia? Maybe.
It has some definite inspirations from Amnesia. The way that you open doors and you interact with things, you click and then you use the mouse. You do the little movement thingies. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of Amnesia in there. They say the game will be in early access until February 16th, so we'll probably throw some chairs at it at that point. Empty.
Yeah, at first I was thinking, Aspyr must have tricked these guys into letting them click export because Unity. But if they're only publishing it, then I didn't know Aspyr was a publisher. Good for them. I hope there's no Unity screen of nope.
We will let you know. But, Neon XZ launches February 16th. Kind of confused because this guy went all over the Reddits and he sent us keys for this, so we'll be taking a look at it next month. It's like, my game's done, it's done. And I just read, it was like 3 different Reddit posts because, the dude had a bit of the history with this, and I was like, all right, what is it? You never heard of it? It's fucking Descent on a Budget, let's just be honest. But he went on, wrong tab, son. Went on a bit of thing.
It's the one before that. Yeah.
Did it all by himself and put it together. 6 Degrees of Freedom. Are we looking forward to what's the price on? $20 on Brad.
Yeah. It's actually been around for a while. If you remember Desura, you probably used Linux for a good long while. This game was originally on Desura, and at the time when it first came out, it's like, hey, we're actually getting some sort of Descent under Linux. But now Descent Underground is also in early access for Linux. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say without multiplayer, which this game does not have any multiplayer, it has 0 chance against Descent Underground. It's too bad. It's kind of a cool game. Doesn't really work so great at UHD. The UI gets really, really small and they need some scaling. But if you can't shoot your friends in 6 Degrees of Freedom, I don't want anything to do with it. And speaking of shooting your friends, we've got some Portal minus Portals coming up next here with
we skipped that one, Ben.
What's that?
We skipped that one. Yeah.
Right.
Attractio. There we go. Basically, it's a dystopian future where you have a physics gun and you run around and solve puzzles. Interesting, but I don't know. They also say they're going to support the Oculus Rift on Windows, so yeah, the video looks fairly cool, but we'll see if this game actually shapes up. And speaking of shifting shapes, we have it's Blob, it's better than Boy and His Blob.
I thought you were going to say crack, then I was like, you're wrong. Nothing's better than crack.
old fogies such as myself may remember this game when it originally came out on the Nintendo. And if you didn't have the manual or a Nintendo Power, you were screwed. Basically, the way it works is you control the boy. You've got this blob that follows you, and you feed him jelly beans. And the jelly beans cause him to do various things like turn into a ladder or a trampoline or a parachute or whatever. The problem on Nintendo was there was absolutely no reference in-game to what the jelly beans did, which made it really, really difficult. So
hey,
I hope
it's physical DRM.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, back in the old days, I actually never picked up a copy of that way back when for the NES. B-Man, do you think we're just going to, is this another nostalgia grab, or is it going to be a decent game?
It could be a nostalgia grab, but looking at the video and the screenshots, it looks pretty good. It's not the retro hipster pixel bullshit. It's actually done with a certain specific aesthetic, and it looks all right. I'm curious. I'll give him that.
Yeah, it's currently priced to sell. What are we at? 15% off, $8.49 wet stinky cashes, 36 positive. You might want to check it out. I'm not seeing anything about, full controller support in Unity. Somebody else is going to have to take the Pepsi challenge on that one. Up next.
But hey, speaking of hipster pixels, Quan.
That's racist.
Yes, it's a to the hipster. But wait, what? MMO? What the hell? Where did that come from?
MMO.
Yeah, they say it's part RPG, part online ecosystem, and part pixel editor. Space bang. The prophecies were right. The end is near. Guam has come and ask for sacrifices, create rituals, craft trees and flowers, fight pollution, and organize. Oh, it's that worm game all over again. Right. This time it's online. Fair enough.
Nope. Notice it says Steam Play, so I know it for a fact that this actually has a Linux port, but you need to fix your system requirements, Brad, before I'm going to have
any system requirements doesn't have the Linux bits on it.
All right, well, hand over those papers.
Yes, newspapers, please, because this is a game. If you're looking at the screenshots, the aesthetic may seem similar if you played Papers, Please before, because this was actually published by Coffee Stain Studios.
No requirement for an operating system.
Yeah, no. It's the goat stimulators. It's basically Papers, Please, but instead of managing a border checkpoint, you have to manage a liberal newspaper in a fascist regime. You have to get news, actually report on the news, and report on what the government's doing to suppress those news without the censorship.
Without getting disappeared.
Yeah, basically.
Without going down the memory hole.
MT, did you ever play Papers, Please? I tried it. And
I did. Actually, it was fairly entertaining, but I could not keep up. That's my big fear with this game, is that as the rules get more complex, my stupid brain just is like, nope.
Yeah.
Well, by any other name.
By any other name, we have Move or Die. It's basically like the duck game from Adult Swim, except with a little bit more variety. The video kind of makes it look like Towerfall, where you're shooting.
Yeah.
Shooting everything, but really the game actually has a bunch of different modes where you scrub paint off the backgrounds. There's bombs that attach themselves to people and you got to pass them along. There's you try to wear the hat for as long as possible, and it just switches up every round. I think this looks like a great game to make you hate your friends.
I mean, I can definitely see that. I was like, oh, that looks kind of... I'm not paying 14 fucking wet stinky cashes for that, P-Man.
No, that's the thing. A Towerfall released at like $10 for Linux. Duck Game was also around $10 on release. Lethal League, I'm not sure, but it's in the same genre of games. That one is probably around $15 as well. I don't know. I'll give it to this game. Better than Towerfall Adventures. It also does online multiplayer, so that's good.
That's definitely a given we need to see in more titles. But one thing I know about Pedro is that he loves shooting submarines.
I don't know about shooting submarines exactly, mostly because there is no shooting involved in the aquatic adventure of The Last Human. Yes. The one thing that actually caught my eye in this one is
hipster pixel Soma.
Yeah, sort of. It's 2D hipster pixel, but it's a different kind of hipster pixel. It reminds me, the way the graphics look, it reminds me a lot of Risk of Rain. And I like Risk of Rain. I like Risk of Rain a lot. And this one is just a more explory bit, trying to get away from the sea monsters while exploring the underwater ruins of
Do
human
they just run up
civilization.
behind you and they're like, gotta get about True Video?
Well, it's not $3.50. It's actually $10. It's currently 50% off, so it's the $8.50 or $8.49 as it were. But yeah, if that's your
Empty,
thing.
do you want to hang out with Seaman?
I don't know. I do like the aesthetic though of like the simplified color palette, while maybe not like using huge pixels for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it does look good, but I don't know if this is necessarily my cup of chainsaw.
Well, that's that. Coming up in the news segment, we're going to talk about some broken things, a little bit of Vulkan, and probably something else, because I haven't scrolled down that far in the show notes.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for your good old regular Linuxy news, and I cocked that up right. God damn it. Ven, how about you tell us about the Patreons?
Check this, Nightmare Fuel out. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and scream at the people that are helping us out. Currently at 63, we have 126.28 wet, stinky caches per Saturday night train wreck. Everyone is awesome for doing that. We got a couple of rewards. I mean, if you want to kick in just 5 cents a show, that's going to be brilliant. You're going to get our extra content that we do release, and we have been releasing. All the way up to, 666 is a custom goal for this guy right here, because Chicago kicks ass. But we have a new thing coming up on LinuxGameCast weekly, daily Wednesdays. P-Man and I will be doing like a midweek recap of, the gaming news, but also some regular news. On top of that, actual interviews. We got some people lined up, and that's going to be a good time. If you can't, man, I completely understand. It's a pain in the ass signing up, and, some people are like, oh, well, the Patreons, that's too much work. That's fine. But if you also want to support us and, not financially, fiscally, or anything like that, head over to our, donate on our web zone, LinuxGameCast.com. We got some Amazon links, or maybe it's like, hey, man, I just want to drop you, like $5 one time. Deal with it. We got the PayPal buttons there. We can make use of that. But, P-Baby, what's so broken?
Yes, and as usual, we start our news segment with some drivers. It's not a driver release this time. It's actually NVIDIA cocking up one of their betas. Thankfully, it's a beta. Not everyone's running it. Good times. So apparently the 361.16 and 361.18 make KOTOR 2 crash as it starts. It just completely core dumps right from the get-go, and it won't work. This there was a bunch of people on the NVIDIA Dev Talk forums discussing, going back and forth. Arthur Huile and Aaron Plattner are already on the case. They know about it. For me, I also noticed this issue, but it wasn't with KOTOR 2. It was with Bound by Flame, because if you scroll down, all the way down that thread, you'll see my post there that says, wild guess, this is probably related to my issue that makes Bound by Flame crash as well. Now, Aaron on my thread said that maybe the two are not related, but there's still no confirmation whatsoever, so we're still waiting. And if you're still running 358.16, you're probably fine, except for the Steam crashing things. If you want to stop Steam from crashing so much, just revert back to the long-lived branch of 352.something. That'll work for you, I think.
Yeah, the game crashing and all that has not kept me off of the latest betas. What has is there is still a bug with Handbrake that's instant nopes. But I mean, this is all crazy sauce empty because we're NVIDIA fanboys. Why will we ever say a disparaging remark about that matter?
In their defense, in NVIDIA's defense, they make the valid point that anyone that's crashing because of this bug is crashing because they were using NVIDIA or OpenGL in an invalid way that triggered undefined behavior that up until this point their driver was dealing with, and then they actually corrected their driver to implement OpenGL properly, and that is why these games and Handbrake have started crashing, because they're not using OpenGL right. So I say they should fix it.
Well, here's something else that might fix us.
Ooh, Carmack.
So we got some Carmack up in here.
Old man
Seeing
yells at game
improvements.
engine.
Seeing some really impressive improvements in the early Vulkan drivers with native code. We'll win big when Unity and Unreal get support, says John Carmack.
Oh, there's my little buddy Scott McHood.
This is kind
PC
of
Pearl,
cool
ladies and gentlemen.
because Vulkan is like the future of Linux gaming. Someone on the Twitter thread actually said Vulkan advantages over Direct3D, to which Carmack replied, the only advantage is that it runs on Android. And someone else replied, does this mean we're going to see Linux support for your games in the future? And Carmack said, only so far as Android runs
is
Linux.
Yeah.
So, boo for you, Carmack, but it still gives me hope anyway.
B-Man.
Yeah, this is already what we have said right here on this show, that if Unity as a My First Game engine needs to support Vulkan, and it needs to do so with minimal to no actions required by those quote-unquote pseudo-devs that just grab assets from the asset store and publish their game on Steam.
And click export.
Now, if you say, like, besides Unity, if you have Unreal 4 and a couple of other engines that people actually use nowadays, if you have those that's supporting Vulkan right out of the box with you, the developer, needing to do nothing or close to nothing, that's awesome. That's really, really good.
I mean, I definitely think it's going to be a brilliant thing. I mean, Vulkan when it actually lands, it's basically going to be glide cross-platform, which is, it sounds crazy, but if you're old and you need to get off my lawn, that makes perfect sense when you think about it. But, a lot of people are like, well, Carmack, why don't you support the... Carmack has never really liked Linux. He wasn't the one porting Doom and all that to Linux. It was, I forget the guy's name, but he left id a while back. But we're talking about graphics performance. We need to bench it because this is Gfxbench Linux edition. That's right. It's available and it's a thing. 700 megajoules to download. Put the installer, does thing, give you a little menu installation, and it will tell you. Nay, it will just throw it right in your face organ that my 980 is faster than a GeForce GTX Titan X. Not by a little bit. No. Because that only scores 7,422. My special Moon 980 scores 15,830. This makes Phronix Test Suite look legit, son.
Hey, man. According to that very same benchmark, my GTX 970 Strix performs worse than a GTX 570. What the fuck?
Yes, and my Thuban 1100T just crashes while collecting system info, so, hooray for Gfxbench.
Yeah, not a real way to start out of the gate there, Brad. But maybe it's not doomed, right?
No, it's not doomed, but Lutris is. Lutris has finally added some Doom support for the old school Ultimate Doom. As long as you own it on Steam, Lutris can now install it. And they can install Romero's new alternate ending level for Mission 1, or Episode 1, E1 or E1M8B, which I might add is possibly the hardest Doom level that I have ever played in my life. I've played plenty of Doom in my life.
I don't know. I mean, those secret levels in Doom 2, those still hold a special place in my heart when it comes to being hard. Giggity. Anyway, you can get all the Doomsy bits if you have them on Steam. You just install Lutris. It'll get all the Steam files, and you don't actually need Steam running in order to get everything going, because this is the native Linux version of Doom. And it's basically a one-click install, because that's what Lutris does. And good on Strider. As much as we make fun of Frenchie, he does some good work.
We do love Frenchie, but
yes.
Lutris needs some Xandorum and Brutal Doom to go with their Ultimate Doom.
And like everything else, this is going to be in the show notes. If you're on the YouTubes watching this later after the fact, head over to our web zone. But let's get Reich.
Yeah, not Reich
right,
yet.
Let's flip the Reich
now. This is the prototype showdown. This is round 2. If you remember, a couple of weeks back, we actually covered round 1, and round 2 brings you a couple of games, which apparently my Firefox decided to crash. So, Ven, how about you? Tell us which games it is.
Well, let's take a look. What do we currently have here? Voting for Laser Pawn, which is like Pawn Stars with lasers, and The Last Colony. It's starring Matt Damon. I don't know. But it looks like there's ants in the pants of that. You can come in and vote. You can download it for the Linuxes. They're right there on the web zone. I like the way he's doing this. MT, do you have thoughts, opinions, hints, allegations, or things better left unsaid?
I do have some thoughts on this. They are both Unity games. They both work. They both have the Unity screen of Nope, where you select your resolution and try desperately to configure your inputs.
These are prototypes.
Yeah, they're absolutely prototypes, so I forgive them for the screen of Nope. Laser Pawn is actually kind of an interesting like puzzle type game. Once you figure out what's going on, kind of see some potential in there. Here's a warning for you: if you're playing on headphones, be careful, because if you die, it makes some horrific noises, and I might have had to change my underwear after the first time that happened. The Last Colony is like an ant simulator thing. I wasn't really fully into that.
What is this? A simulator for ants?
Yeah, it's actually an RTS game, which is why Firefox finally unfroze for me. Laser Pawn is a pretty awesome game because you control a pawn and you have to destroy other chess pieces. And those other chess pieces, as they're destroyed, they send out like little beams where a chess piece, where that specific chess piece usually moves. So if it's a bishop, it'll move diagonally. If it's a rook, it'll go like horizontally and vertically. So you have to like in one shot basically clear out all the pieces on whatever chessboard they give you, which is kind of amazing. I want that game to go through.
I don't know. You just missed a beautiful chance to call The Lost Colony Ants in My Eyes. It wouldn't just
completely
think about it.
No idea.
Could have happened. All right, Arch.
All right, we've got RetroLib finally supporting Dreamcast. They've imported the Reichest emulator.
That's a
and
game. Show title.
Reichest Simulator. Sure. It basically integrates into libretro, giving you one-stop controller configurations and everything. This is a really good thing because Dreamcast has been one of the few platforms that libretro has not supported up to this point. Pedro?
Yeah, the new, for me, this one is kind of interesting because with the new update, the Android app fixed
that'll teach it.
The issues. Yeah. I was trying to get the Steam controller, but it was stuck. It fixes the issues I was having on the Steam tablet, and the one awesome thing about RetroArch is that it recognizes the Steam Shield controller, or not Steam, NVIDIA. What the fuck? The NVIDIA Shield controller out of the box. All I have to do is map the buttons accordingly, and all the emulators will just pick up on it right then and there. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was just like slow clap anything getting Dreamcast emulation up and running, even in the chat room. I'm like, oh yeah, kind of. Yeah, I've never had much luck with that. I was like, loading screen. Nope. All right. But then I squirrel too, so it's not like in the olden days where I'm going to make you work, and hashtag love butts. But I think that is going to do it for the news. P-Man, do we have some video games coming up next?
Oh, yes, we do. We have some Total War, and apparently the war is not exactly what they expected.
But that's the best you can do.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Hello, you medieval dickweeds. It's time for the CHAIRQUISITION, and this week, Medieval 2 Total War trademark faces the CHAIRQUISITION. What is it? You never heard about it. Spanning the most turbulent era in Western history, your quest for territory and power takes you through... Yeah, it's a strategy fucking fighting game. Got it, right. Currently 19.99 wet stinky caches. This has been originally a Sega title. It was ported over by our good friends at Feral Interactive, and we're going to give it the business. But before we do that, it must face the CHAIRQUISITION. 1 chair means no. 2 chairs. Not sure if I want 3 chairs. Check it out. 4 chairs. Shut up and take our monies. But we also have our categories of doom mixed with a working, shiny and sounds controls, and fun. All right, let's get into this. Vin, what do you think? All right, other Vin. Yeah, come on, I had to do that. It's going to be brilliant. Over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 8150 octa-core powered 980 NVIDIA 4K displayed box of the business. Runs really good. I mean, performance is actually staggeringly great. Well over 100 FERPs at 1080 and between 75 and 90 at UHD. That's 2160. There's some problems there, Brad. All games listed in multiplayer are shown in red, and that means incompatible. You know, it's kind of a giveaway when in red it does actually say incompatible. P-Man and I, we were unable to connect in a special, like, fuck you way of unable to connect. We were both in their lobby chat room, but we were not able to see each other. We could not, it just did not work. But there's another thing. I mean, the game originally had a 4:3 aspect ratio. I was like, maybe I want to check that out with the expanded UI, because that kind of looks a bit ass, but I'll talk about that later. Could not get that to work. And where is the windowed mode? Seriously, it just was not there. So, it's not a good start. I'm going to give this 2 chairs, but it's not busted. It's playable. P-Baby.
No, it's empty right now.
Okay, well, on the AMD Phenom 2 X6 1100T, powered by the GTX 780 Ti computer, we were getting about 60 frames per second at 1080p. With everything on YOLO 11. And at 2160p, we were getting about 45 to 60 frames per second, which is pretty darn good, especially considering that I had VSync turned on, so there was no way I could go higher than 60. Everything started out pretty well, except for the constant spike crashes of, hello, here's your desktop again. No error messages, no nothing, just back at the desktop. I also had a hard lock during the first tutorial where there was nothing I could do except push the reset button. And you can't even run this game from the command line to see what is causing the crashes because it launches through Steam, no matter what. Earlier today, I said, why is this crashing like this? And I decided, you know what? Let's try clicking the auto detect settings button instead of just turning everything up to 11, which is why I bought a 780 Ti, by the way. And the game actually started working properly once I turned the settings down, but that's not the way I want to run games. So, 2 chairs.
Yeah, you see... All right. It actually hardened up my box during the second tutorial mission, and I didn't even touch the settings. Just left them default. I just went to see the controls and see what like the shortcuts and the keys to move the camera around were. That all worked great. But during the second tutorial mission, where you have that 4x type turn-based scenario going on, it hard locked my box. It hard locked it so bad that even if I did Control Alt F2 to like change to TTY2, it simply would not work. I had to fire up the netbook, SSH in, and kill the process. That was not good. And then I tried to start a campaign with Portugal, because obviously, and it did the exact same thing because the very first mission was one of those 4x type scenarios. So I don't know. this may have something to do with the 360-118 beta NVIDIA drivers, but the game didn't really justify me bothering to check. Now, I am playing this game on Fedora 23 64-bit with an AMD FX 8370E overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz and a GTX 970 Strix. So, considering that, I will give it 1 chair.
All right, so if we put all that nightmare fuel together, not looking good, Brad. That is, as he searches for his cursor, 1 chair. But up next, the shinnies and the sounds. So let's get into this. This game was released in 2006, so I'm going to be able to cut it some slack, Brad. Seriously, that was almost 10 years ago. Old, go feels it. And considering it's a real-time strategy, kind of tempted to say it holds up, ? Maybe. Except for that texture pop-in on the trees and the units. Giggity. I don't know why, but I did genuinely find that maddening, all kidding aside. That and the UI, even in the original version, is hella stretched when using 16:9 aspect ratio widescreen instead of 4:3. And don't even mention the minimal UI option, since that just puts your units, giggity again, on the bottom and everything else up on top, and that's just a ball of nope on a 4K display. It's a lot of travel, Brad. And why? Why was that an issue? In 2006, widescreen monitors were a thing. I had one. Granted, it did run at 1680 by 1050, but they weren't astronomically expensive. They were like 600 quid, about what you would pay for a decent monitor today. That's it for graphically. I mean, it's there. I actually think it still looks kind of all right with everything on Yellow Swag Dorito at 4K and for, a strategy type game. But let's talk about the sounds. All I can say is they air quote work because they were very difficult to hear over mothering Dragon Force that I had blaring in the back. So, 2 chairs.
Well, graphics from 2006 may have looked pretty good back in 2006. The overhead map for the turn-based part of the game actually is pretty colorful and pretty understandable and not so bad at all. The town maps, on the other hand, they're a little bit muddy, and the buildings are all indiscreet, and it's not nearly as clear or nice as the overhead world maps are. Everything, I must say, looked better with 16x anti-aliasing and 4K resolution, except that it crashed all the time. Also, this game's pre-rendered movies definitely did not age well. The motion cap's no good, the video looks very heavily compressed, etc., etc. When it comes to sound, yeah, there's battle noises. Apparently there's music too, although I don't even remember hearing it. I actually had to start the game up again and be like, oh yeah, there is some generic type medieval music going on. Didn't even notice it when I was actually playing the game. All said, I'm actually going to give this 3 chairs, but that's fairly charitable.
Yeah, considering everything Ven and Empty just said, this game looks dated. Dated. If you zoom in all the way up, you'll see the soldiers, and the models are basically just blocks. You can actually count the polygons on one of the units' heads, but it's not. It's 2016 now, and I get it. Medieval 2 is one of those games that people actually like to play. Hell, if you go on Steam right now, it has 95% positive reviews. I don't know how, but there it is. The music is your typical medieval military beat, and sometimes a choir will sing. Hell, if you get lucky, you'll hear a lady like singing the solo. Yeah, 2 chairs.
All right, so if we round up all that nonsense, that's going to be a solid 2 chairs for the shiny and sounds, but we need to put it in our hand organs, play it with our keyboards and our gerbils, and see how that works out. Well, it's a strategy game, so your standard WASD, plus your Q and your E and your zoomy gerbil wheel of thingies. that works. You just immediately plot down right there. And like, okay, everything, I understand all this. But get ready to hear this next bit 2 more times. But I'm going to be the first to say it. The units are not set and forget. You know, you have your phalanxes laid out and where you're going to attack. You're like, all right, archers, you do this. Cavalry, you do this. Then you want to scroll way over here and do that. Forget that noise. That's not going to fucking happen. Because this game doesn't realize that this is medieval times and they are serf motherfuckers. You're not trying to give them suggestions, but they think you are, Brad. And that is, I got to dig in a chair for that. Because it didn't get me killed to death. I'm going to give it 3 chairs. But it was hella annoying when I was like, you take care of this. All right. Bombardiers, Canada's, whatever you want to call them, you do this. Then I come over here and I'm working with the cavalry and I come back and they're standing around munching on glue sticks going, you need what, my lord? And I was like, motherfuckers. All right. That's it.
Absolutely. This is really 2 separate games kind of smooshed into one. You have the overworld, broad area map where you can see different countries and everything. And that's turn-based. Now, the turn-based part of the game actually controls pretty decently. You right-click on stuff to select it, or you left-click on stuff to select it. You right-click on stuff to actually move there. That's all pretty solid. It's when you get into the real-time strategy town battles that things go very, very, very wrong. The AI is dumb. You tell them, okay, I want you to go to this place that's around a corner, and they will just stand there and run into the buildings trying to make a direct line to where you've told them to go. Say, okay, I want you guys to storm through this gate and start attacking people. And they'll just run back and forth in front of the gate because your cavalry is blocking their path, or who knows what. It doesn't even make sense. I got very, very angry at several points when I told my cavalry charge, and they were like, okay, we'll charge up to here and then we'll turn around and da-da-da. The real-time strategy drags it down, so I can only give it 3 chairs.
Yeah, I can't give it 4 chairs here either, because more than once I clicked to select like a battalion, or you can't really select individual units like MT already mentioned. I clicked to select a battalion on the actual game screen itself, and more often than not, it would outright refuse to. So I like to have at the bottom, not the unit screen, as it were, but any of the other screens, because they actually give you some information as you're playing the game. So I'd had to go back and change it back to the Unity screen, and then I'd have to select each battalion individually, then issue the orders on the actual game screen. Why? You're clearly registering sometimes when I select the units from the game screen without having to select them from the bottom panel. Why don't you do that all the time? It's really not that hard. 3 chairs.
All right, so if we put all that together, it gets 2 chairs. 4 can... Wait, hang on. 3 chairs.
3.
There we go. Maths, then, for the controls. But now our final category. Is it fun? And this is kind of an important thing we need to address, you know. When you start this game, you have a couple options. You have skirmish mode, and you can go through basically a career type thing. I'm actually not a fan of what they call the Grand Campaign. Not a huge fan of that. However, a quick historical battle, kind of bit of all right. Didn't mind doing that. And I've played, a few, and what do I have? Over an hour into this, and I mostly enjoyed myself. That's if you keep the difficulty at medium or below. The next 2 difficulty settings should be labeled because fuck you, and that's why, respectively, because it just turns on, instant.
The AI literally cheats at that.
You will get noped. Infinite spawning armies, and good on anyone that is better at that than I. For me, really the only thing that kills this title is the lack of functioning multiplayer. I mean, I could justify cocking about for a few more hours in, PvP between Jordan and MT. It would be a very fun video to make with all of us going that. But they just simply were unable to make that work. And we've contacted Feral and they're like, what is? And that's the thing. Maybe it'll get sorted later. But if you mix all that in with a 19.99 wet stinky price tag for a 10-year-old game, all I can give you is 2 chairs for the fun.
Well, like I was saying, the overworld screen where you're doing turn-based is actually fairly competent. Unfortunately, that's only half the game. The other half of the game is RTS. Now, on the overworld, you can do diplomacy, spying, trade deals, capturing cities. You can even marry off your princess if you want to. It's a fairly competent Civ-esque type game. The RTS segments, on the other hand, are no good. It is so thoroughly broken that it makes me want to scream. The worst part is you can actually skip the RTS segments and just say, do the math and calculate the battle for me. But I refuse to do that. I'm going to play this game, the whole game. I'm not going to roll some dice and have it determine my battles for me. And the RTS segments are where this game is so broken. You'll tell your people to attack people and they'll run into a wall instead. I spent so much time just screaming at my computer saying, no, don't do that, do this instead. And I'm sorry, but my computer didn't listen. So I can only give this 1 chair. I did not have fun.
Yeah, I don't like real-time strategy games. I don't hate them with the same passion that I do uninspired hipster pixel platformers. Almamari. Yeah, weird cough. But I really don't like them either. When I started the second tutorial mission and saw that the game had like that 4X overworld type thing that MT already described, I was excited? Question mark? I was thinking, OMG, an RTS game I might actually enjoy. And immediately after that, the game froze my system. So I tried it again. Same thing. I started a short campaign with Portugal. The very first mission uses that overworld scenario and another hard lock happened. You know what? Fuck you. 1 chair.
Okay, so if we mix all that together for the fun, it's not looking good, Brad, because that's just 1 chair and our final score of 1 chair. That breaks us down to nope, and that kind of pains me.
Hell no.
It's it needs work. Granted, I don't know exactly how busted this was on the Windows version. I mean, this could just be the game is busted because you got to remember, Feral just ports the game. They're not going to rewrite the damn game, you know? That's their job and that's what they do. But in this current state, especially with the multiplayer, I don't get that, why that's not working. I can't recommend it at that price tag. If you catch this, half off $9.99, I'd say maybe pick it up. It might be worth a play. Empty?
Well, between the crashes and the completely busted AI, if I could have one or the other, if I could have good graphics but stupid AI, maybe I could have made this a 2-chair game. Or if I could have had, smart AI with no graphics whatsoever, it would have done better. But the combination of the both is just an unholy storm of, I don't want to play this anymore. I'm sorry. I see the potential. I see what it could have been, but I don't actually get to play that. So stay away.
Yeah, that bit that MT mentioned, that was actually pretty interesting. The where you can actually skip the real-time strategy elements and just do the whole 4X thing from the overworld and have the game calculate everything and do it by itself. That was pretty awesome.
That was above my
like
intelligence level. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. That's actually pretty good for, people that like turn-based strategy like me and don't like real-time strategy. They can just play that half of the game and completely skip the rest. But even just that half of the game is completely broken. I didn't change any of the settings. I didn't bother to go into the graphics settings because I figured, you know what? It's a real-time strategy game. I won't care about the graphics one way or another. But it kept hard locking my system. You don't do that. It's 2016. I'm running, admittedly, I'm running an AMD CPU. It's not ideal, I know. But it works well with 90% of the games that come out. It's just those very specific games, and most of them were actually ported by Feral. I'm looking at you, Shadow of Mordor, that tend to not work so well when it comes to AMD. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. But this is not a good game. Do not get it.
Well, coming up next, maybe you disagree with what we said. And I just want to say, Feral did very good with Alien Insulation.
Yes.
On AMD hardware.
That they did.
Fan-fucking-tastic job, by the way.
That was pretty good.
All right. Just wanted to get that out there because, I mean, if it's good, we're going to say it's good. If it's bad, we're going to say it's bad. That's just how we roll. Full disclosure, Feral did give us keys except for Empty. Empty bought his own copy.
I paid $27 for this.
That's definitely a thing. But if you disagree with what we say, send us some hate mail because we're about to get into that coming up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the hate mail. And if you don't know how to get in touch with us at this point, what the hell are you doing with your life? LinuxGameCast.com, contact button, fill the thing. It's easy. Unless, of course, you're trying to promote a game. At which point, if you don't send us keys or a build of your game that we can play around with, we're just going to make fun of you. Right. So apparently I was wrong last week.
You don't
because
say.
Sven Hesse, a.k.a. Dr. McCoy, a.k.a. the guy behind Zorius, basically laid out exactly why I was wrong in calling...
Oh, wait a minute. What's Zorius? I've never heard of it.
Zorius is the open source re-implementation of the Aurora engine. If you don't know what the Aurora engine powers... it powers Neverwinter Nights, Neverwinter Nights 2, KOTOR, KOTOR 2, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, Sonic Chronicles for the Nintendo DS, and probably... Oh, the first Witcher. Yeah, that's the one. So, yeah, basically, he went on this tirade over on LinuxGameCast.com. If you find last week's episode and you go to the article, down at the bottom in the comments, he... drops this whole spiel. It's like, yeah, those bullet points, they're not quite correct. They're not what he intended to say. So, summing it up, I called it a decompiler, and it's not a decompiler, it's a disassembler. I also said that decompiling those bits from the bytecode from the games themselves would help fill in the blanks of what Zorius can't do at this point. And he also corrected that. Zorius can run the bytecode already. It's being able to disassemble the bytecode and have it in human-readable format will make it easier for future mods for those games that Zorius can run to work with it, so to speak. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I called it a decompiler, and it's a disassembler, basically.
I just like, he didn't say anything I said was wrong.
Yeah, well, I was the only one that actually put bullet points in the show notes, so I'm guessing you didn't actually watch the whole thing. I don't know.
What do you think?
I hate all those things. Especially Pedro.
Fair enough.
But can you count? Friezo writes, Steam on Linux hits 1,800 games available. He says, sorry, I'm not feeling particularly hateful tonight. But hey, 1,800 games now! Exclamation point. He does link to a Phronix article, which I I did manage to, manage to check that out. And well, we used to have a game where we would open up a Phronix article and out of like the 15 hyperlinks, try to guess which one.
On Phronix.
Yeah, try to find the one that didn't link back to another article and actually link to the source. This one did not link to any source, but, in typical Phronix fashion, informative as ever. I mean, maybe you want to look up how to do the view numbers yourselves. LGC cares, actually. Let me show you how to do that right quick. Just go to the store, Steam-powered, sort this. Make sure it's on the Linux. Click Games. Steam OS, Linux. Scroll down. Boom. Now we have 13 games. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of those, Linux has matured as a platform because we're getting the same shit they're piling out on the Windows. Are we excited about this? I mean, I guess it's a good thing. What do you think, Empty? What do you think? Like 10, possibly 15 really good games on Linux right now?
I hate all games. No, actually, I'd be curious, like, how many AAA, AA, single A, shit, even B games do we have on Linux? But 1800's nice. I hate it.
I don't know. I mean,
Chloe writes in about what we talked about early in the show, Gfxbench GL. This is the thing that my 980 is more powerful than a Titan X. Chloe writes, I could be horribly wrong, as I don't know anything about that program, but could the other results be running on Windows, ? Being that Windows is far more resource-heavy than the majority of Linux distros, I could see that giving you an edge, not by 20,000 points.
No, and definitely not in OpenGL, because that whole benchmark runs in OpenGL, be it in Linux or Windows. So no.
Well, I mean, how does it run, Empty?
All it did was crash on me. I hate it.
And on that bombshell, let's cue the music, because you can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time doing this nightmare fuel. It is brilliant. I'm at Venstone on the Twitter nets, cleverly disguised, also on the G+s plus Venstone.
I am Mike Tehan. You cannot find me on Twitter at The Real Leprechaun, but you can actually find me on G+ at plus Mike Tehan.
And I am the incredible Plagiarizzo. You can always find me on Twitter at unaccounted4, that's FOUR, yeah. Or on Google Plus at plus Pedro Mateos.
Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you believe the Leprechaun, you are the super hateful.
I hate it!
I just drew a blank. Brain fart!
All hail Spain! Because that was a thing.
5 dudes.